Hey, how's it going? My name's Dave, and I'm the founder of The Hungry. And happiness to me is seeing my boy's face when he finally breaks a personal record that he's been holding on to for so long.
Podcast is brought to you by Podman. At Podman, we help podcast hosts manage, market, and grow their podcasts. For more info, go to trypodman.com.
Welcome. You're tuned into the Happy AF Show, your weekly ticket to a world brimming with joy, energy, and positive vibes. Are you ready to dive into stories that uplift, strategies that empower, and tips that can transform your day from blah to brilliant? Every week, we bring you the most heartwarming, inspiring tales from people just like you who turned their can'ts into cans and their dreams into plans. Whether you're commuting, working out, or just lounging at home, the Happy AF Show is your go-to source for all things happy. Together, we'll explore the corners of happiness, from the simple pleasures of everyday life to the grand gestures that make life worth living. So buckle up, dear listeners, as we embark on this joyous journey. Get ready to laugh, learn, and maybe even shed a tear or two of joy. This is the Happy AF Show, hosted by Phil Gerbishak, ready to guide you through another incredible episode. Let's get Happy AF now. Let the show begin.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I get to talk to my buddy Dave Conrey. It's been 10 years since he was on the Shut Up Show with me, and now he's got some cool stuff he's doing with a thing he calls The Hungry. What's up, Dave?
Hey, what's going on, Phil? Welcome, thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome to you too, my man. I'm glad you're here. It's been a long time. We've been chasing each other on the internet, though, so that's been kind of fun, huh?
Yeah, it's interesting how things come in circles sometimes. I've had a lot of circles come back this year. It's really interesting how that happens, how things just kind of everything goes in cycles, and it seems to be that's the case, right? Just retouching base with people that I hadn't touched base with, and things happening kind of in circles, as far as where my focus is at. It's just weird how that works, but I love it.
Yeah. So tell me about that. So tell me about how your circles are kind of becoming more on top of each other concentrically.
Well, so okay, I kind of got to go back in the history, right? When you guys
Yeah.
first met me, when I was doing a lot of writing. I was kind of coming out of a career of graphic design. I was an art director for a major publishing company, and they parted out the company and they sold our division off to a different company. And it was too far away for me to go to work. So I took the pink slip route, and I got a fat severance check for that, and kind of went on my own journey, which is something I wanted to do anyway. It just happened they basically funded my self-employment, right, with that
Right.
severance check. And it's just started talking a lot about the things that I'm basically talking about now. But I had to go through this whole journey before I could get back to it. So I was writing a lot, talking about creative business, talking about motivation, talking about marketing, and all of that stuff. Sharing my wisdom, my insights, my experiences with other people. And then at a certain point, I thought, you know what, I really need to be more I need to do, because I was talking to a lot of artists and designers and whatnot. And I thought I need to be more in the trenches. So while I'm writing all this stuff, I'm starting to do my own brand of products and services, products and stuff like that, and art. And at a certain point, I was like, I'm actually really enjoying that part more than I am this other part right now. So I just dove in head deep, and I kind of left a little bit of most of the writing behind, except for whenever I would just happen to post about something that was interesting to me. I had podcasts, I was writing books, and I was doing all this stuff, and I kind of put it all aside for a while just to focus on my art and my design pursuits, and did that for quite a few years. And then it just let's see, what was it? It was 2022, April, maybe 2022. I came across Substack, and I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And I dabbled a little bit, I wrote a little bit, but I wasn't too eager into it. I was like, okay, whatever, I'll see how it goes. And I wrote some things, and then I kind of forgot about it for a little bit. And then I went back and I noticed that there were people that were actually paying attention. There's actually people reading the stuff. I was like, oh, wow. And so then I jumped in again. And as I started to kind of figure out the voice and the energy and what I wanted to write about, like the other stuff started to like, I felt like, not that I don't want to do art, but it was like, now I feel like, oh man, I took all of this experience that I learned in the last several years. Now I can bring it back into this framework that I'd built before. Well, it's a new framework, but it's basically the same general idea, and kind of turn it into this new thing, which is the Hungry. And it's just kind of been my motivation and my inspiration since then.
Cool. So why hungry? Is it because the old starving artist metaphor, or what?
Yeah, I came up with a phrase a while back, that says starving artists starve and hungry artists eat.
Mm,
And ever since then, I've just always said it that way, because it's like it doesn't mean, a hungry artist doesn't mean like, it's not like a hustle bro. It's not like they're killing it. It just means that they're just not satisfied with just waiting for things to happen to them and complaining about it on social media. Right? So as that, a hungry artist goes after what it is they want, and they chase the things, and they're not held back by the limitations of the art industry or the traditionalists. So they look for new ways to explore their creativity in different ways, and being able to make money in different ways, seeing all the opportunities rather than just the typical opportunities. And so so it started out originally called The Hungry Artist, but then I also noticed that it wasn't just artists that I was like there were other people beyond artists. Like there were other creative, like musicians and writers and other designers and whatnot. So I was like, okay, well, let's just call it The Hungry, because that's kind of more encapsulating of everything, rather.
yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why it started resonating with me, is because you kind of broadened out, and I get the whole art thing, but yeah, I'm a writer. I would not call myself an artist by any stretch of the imagination. But I love that. I love the way you do that. And one of the things that really resonated with me is that you said that we have to not be afraid to ask to get paid.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like so many artists are like, they feel like they've sold out. I mean, I remember years ago, people said Metallica sold out. And what they really did is they sold out stadiums and all their albums and everything else. So what do you tell us more about that, Dave?
um, well, yeah, okay. So I do think that there is a delineation there, right? I do believe that sellout is a thing, but most people get it wrong. When I think of sellout, I think of somebody who compromised their morals, compromised
Mm,
their strategy, made some sort of compromise against their better judgment in order to pursue something that was just a land grab or just an opportunity to make money. They sacrificed their soul to some degree. And that's also, there's a broad spectrum on that one too, because what may feel like a sellout to me may be different to somebody else. Like they didn't see it as much of a compromise, right? As just like rather just an interesting way to pivot. So there is that. But what I believe is that there are a lot of people out there that believe that art should be a certain way, right? You should like they shouldn't have to worry about selling. They should let the art dealers, the art gallerists, the museums worry about that aspect of it, and not them. They should just be able to do their art. And I appreciate that, but I don't think it's a real world mentality. I think it's something that's perpetuated by the industry, and that a lot of people go into the art world thinking that's the way it's going to be. But it's a really big wake up call when it doesn't happen that way. And a lot of people will think that way, but then turn around and complain about how they're not getting noticed, they're not getting the attention, that nobody's buying their work. And I think that's it's like, I think if they saw my side of things, like say, well, have you thought about doing this thing over here, which is different than anything you've done before, or doing that thing, or doing this other thing over here, going these different directions, finding a new way to get to an audience, a new way to sell product, or whatever it is you want to call it. I use the word product loosely. I think the artists kind of really shy away from that, right? They don't like to think of their art as product, but you know, if they're not thinking about these ways, then immediately the traditionalists will be like, no, that's selling out. And I don't think so. I don't see it that way. I see it as just a different opportunity, depending on the art, depending on the creative output, new ways to find your audience, and without being limited by all the things that we were limited in the past, that we don't have any of those limitations anymore.
Yeah, I think the same is certainly true for writers. If they depend on the publishing houses to do the marketing for them, they're not going to sell any books. Like probably one book, maybe. I mean, it's hard now. You have to go out there and make the noise yourself. And so, Dave, let's talk about some of the noise that you have to make in order to be successful. I mean, because you're not super active on a lot of social. You're most active, at least from what I'm seeing, most active on Threads, and there's not a
Yes.
lot there. So talk to me about what choice that is, and where are you making noise?
Well, so it comes in different ways a lot of times, and sometimes it's ways that I don't dictate. Like, well, for instance, people ask me to be on their shows, right? Like you did, and that's really it. Like, I'll join a show anytime, like just because, not for like, hey, let's see if I can grab some of their audience, but it's just like I just like talking about this stuff, and it just by hopefully through that, somebody finds some sort of resonance with what I share, what I talk about, then they're coming over to the Hungry and they're checking it out. They're signing up for the newsletter just to see what's going on, see what I'm doing. I do use Threads, and I've personally built a good relationship with quite a few artists there, and I think that it's something that's growing. It's changed. It was really hot, right, and then things kind of like they've definitely tapered off quite a bit as far as like the reach and everything. I think and that's just the nature of how Meta does things, right? They produce a new thing, they introduce a new tool, right? And everybody uses it for a while, and then they immediately squelch it down, because okay, everybody's into it now, so let's squelch it down. So like they've already gotten a teaser. Let's see if we can get them to do other things for us instead, right? And so it's just a matter of like showing up on a regular basis, being in these events like this. I have a podcast myself it's actually my friend Julie Pritchard is an artist, and it was her idea to start a podcast. And so we kind of have like a team podcast called Not As Interesting As We Think. It's both on YouTube and now today, like actually this weekend, we just launched on Spotify. So it's brand new, but that's another way to kind of gain interest, right? So that I blog on the Hungry, and then I share those posts in different places. I have the newsletter, and I ask people for referrals. I want it to be as organic as possible. Like, I'm not trying to pitch it too much, but I also recognize that that's a slow, like super slow growth method. So this year, and I haven't started yet, but this year is going to be a year of paid acquisition. So I'm going to start experimenting with paid ads just to get people over there. And I took most of the year last year to kind of grow the Hungry up organically like that, but also paying attention to what other newsletters were doing that are like similar in structure but different focus. So like Morning Brew or The Hustle or whatever, those the more business oriented ones, whereas mine's still business, but it's very specifically creative business. And so kind of using their model and then kind of implementing that into what I'm doing, for my audience. And so that's kind of the strategy so far. So this year will definitely be a lot more paid acquisition, whether it's through Facebook ads or Google ads or something like that. Still working out that plan, but yeah, that's where I'm going.
Cool. So yeah, I try to be as organic as possible too. But to your point, 3 to 5 subscribers a week is pretty slow go. I mean, some weeks are less than that. I mean, people they're not searching as much as they once were, and if they are, they're not. I mean, I don't know. I don't find them subscribing like they once did. People would just subscribe and kind of sit there, and then like if there's no notification, they're not paying attention. That's what I found anyway. I don't know. Have you found that as well?
It's tough to say because my stuff doesn't go out like so you're published on Substack, but mine, although I was on Substack for a while, I'm no longer doing that. I'm using ConvertKit for my newsletter, and so there is no really notification to people that I have published something, right? Other than just me sending out an email, and so it's just a matter of like I hope that I get a 50% open rate on my emails because that's kind of my average. And sometimes it's a little less, sometimes it's a little more. And, like that, and kind of appealing to the good nature of the people that are reading it, because if they're really inspired by what I'm sharing, like I hope that, they'll share it with somebody else, that not just share it with somebody else, but share it with somebody else that can actually, earn or learn from it, right? Take some sort of aspect away and build upon whatever it is they want. So that's really what I want. And so I know it's going to be slow growth because I'm dealing with a lot of that. A lot of artists just don't have the same view as I do on this subject, and that's okay. But there are still plenty that do, as long as I can get it into their hands. So I'm hoping on people that read can make those referrals, and hopefully connect with those people. So
Yeah. Well, there's a lot in the Hungry, Dave, and a lot of things we could talk about. One of the things that I like that you talk about is the time management effectiveness strategy that you recently published about, all about the kind of a calendar framework. So can you talk to us about that? And I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes.
Okay, well, I have to give full credit to that one to my friend, well, new friend, Adele Jelani.
Okay.
She is the one that penned that whole article, and so she knows more about that framework than I do. But because I actually asked her to, I asked her because I was like, I saw something that she had posted, and we talked about it, and I said, listen, Adele, you need to share this with me and also with others, because I'm absolutely horrific at time management. I don't have them here in front of me, but Phil, my time management structure right now is getting a note card and writing down all the things I need to do today and holding that with me in my pocket. So I remind myself of what's going on, because I will not pay attention to my Notion app, my ClickUp app, my Trello. I won't pay attention to it. I'm absolutely horrific with it when it comes to this. So I can't speak to it too much, but I will say that Adele's information on that really resonated with a lot of people. A lot of people were thankful for writing or for posting that one. And so, that's another way that I'm starting to grow things, is I'm starting to invite other people to pull it, come in and write stuff for the Hungry that might benefit these people. And that way, the crossover, crossovers would work. So if we have any crossover like that, but yeah, so her strategy is much better than mine. If you wanted to, Phil, it's totally up to you. If you want to put a link in the description.
Yeah, I definitely will, because I think it's important, right?
Yeah,
I think it's important. But there's lots of other stuff too. So tell me, Dave, what's like, if you had one article that you're most proud of, what would that be?
Oh, wow. There's a few. Recently I posted up about how I would start a newsletter, for 2024. And the intention there was really just to kind of express what I would do different, because I've seen a lot of people complain about, how the newsletters weren't working and whatnot. And I think that a lot of artists believe that newsletters aren't meant for them, because what they perceive newsletters to be is like email marketing. What I think of a newsletter, they think of as email marketing, or they think of email marketing and they call it a newsletter, but really it's just email marketing, which is, it's an important thing for a lot of businesses, but it's not necessarily the same thing. You can't have both, but they're not necessarily the same thing. And so, excuse me, I talked about that a little bit. I talked about the platforms that are available to us, because I think a lot of people think newsletters are about MailChimp or Constant Contact or, one of these other platforms. And I think that there's these new hybrids like Substack or Beehive or Ghost or whatever, or even more advanced tools like ConvertKit that are available to people. So I described those to them. And I think it opened everything I talked about basically opened the eyes of a lot of these artistic people, creative people, that there's more there than just what their perception was before. And I don't know, it's just kind of like why I believe that post was so good for me is not just that it got more attention, but also that it validated the idea of everything I'm doing. It was just that little bit of validation. It's not huge. It didn't go bonkers crazy. It didn't go super viral or anything, but it definitely got, like, I got replies to the email itself. I got, people commenting, and I got people sharing it. And it's just like that little bit. It was like, I did something good here. Now, can I repeat that process over and over again. So I guess at the end, it was a lesson. I learned a good lesson from it and kind of tried to build upon that.
That's good. Yeah. And I think that's a more healthy definition of success than trying to go viral. I think a lot of people try to go viral. Oh my gosh, I didn't get 10,000 or 100,000 views. When in reality, if you can be a little better than yesterday and we can learn something from what we did, I think we're going to be a lot more successful long term than if we just have a viral post and like, oh, okay, how do I do that?
Yeah. I've never gone viral in my entire life. Not even once. Not one one single time. Which is part of the reason why I don't spend a lot of time on social media. It's like I'm just not into the whole grind, the hustle and grind of a lot of social media in order to get that virality. I'd rather just move, slow and steady wins the race kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm on social for the conversations. I'm not on there to try to go viral. I'm with you there, Dave. That's I think that's a fool's errand if you ask me. So so with that, what the hungry.art is the website. So I'm gonna hawk you a little here so people can check that out if you want to check more from Dave out. But Dave, give us an actionable tip if we want to get started thinking more like a business person and maybe a little bit less like an artist. How do we do that? Where do we go?
Oh man. Well, you go to the Hungry and just subscribe and you get tips every week. No, for real, the single most important thing anybody can do, to move themselves out of that starving artist mindset over to the hungry artist mindset is just an open mind. Just keeping an open mind that there's opportunity in other places, and not that the traditional approach is a bad idea. It's just not the only idea. And you can do multiple, like you can do different things. It doesn't have to just be one thing. So open mind is the first thing they need to do. Absolutely. And the second thing is just go out and look and see how other people are doing art that is maybe not so traditional. Like, how are they being artistic? How are they being creative? How are they sharing their work? And maybe not even selling art itself. I've seen so many circumstances where people are out there being creative people and they don't even sell. They more like they get up on stream and they just stream all of their content and they make money through YouTube, or they share all their techniques in video form, like whether it's shorts or long form, and then they sell some digital products like brushes and textures and things like that help other artists do their thing, or they have training programs, or they have communities of membership where people can work together, and or it's they have a very illustrative nature, and instead of just trying to draw pictures and hopefully people buy their prints, that they actually go and put it up on merchandise through print on demand services, and so they can sell mugs and t-shirts and whatever, blankets and stickers or whatever. So it's just a matter of keeping an open mind and then investigating what other people in the space are doing that maybe is a thing that you're taking for granted, and that it might be a good opportunity for them.
That's great. That's awesome. Well, friends, if you want to get more from Dave, I encourage you to go to the hungry.art. There's lots of great stuff there. You've got tons of awesome things, awesome articles. You've got some artwork, all sorts of things. So I really value that, and I really value you, Dave. Thank you for spending some time with us today so that we can learn more about the Hungry and learn more how to be like a hungry artist instead of like a starving artist. Thanks, man.